You know, I wouldn't have guessed that you were such a comedian. I wouldn't have guessed it. But, you know, here we are. Anyways, it's brought to you with the compliments of Bickles and GK Priority Insurances Limited. If you had to go to Bickles right now and choose a patty, which one would it be?
Well, I can't eat patties because I'm allergic to flour.
You're allergic to flour?
Or gluten.
Really?
Yeah.
So they have a gluten-free. You know, they do something gluten-free at Bickles, you know.
But
yeah, they do.
But I haven't checked them out.
But
I used to have patties at Bickles. I think it was always like a chicken patty.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, I think.
When did you discover you were?
I became allergic to flour. I think I don't remember exactly now, but I think it was perhaps 2015 or there.
Oh, relatively recently.
Relatively recently for that. But I've had like progressive allergic reactions to different things.
So you were always allergic, and you just didn't realize, or?
No. I became allergic.
Okay.
To it.
That's crazy.
You know, there's this kind of a creeping allergy phenomenon that's around the place. I'm also allergic to lactose, which I've been for almost all my life.
Wow.
Post-weaning.
So no ice cream for you?
No ice cream.
So we can't even ask you which Frisco ice cream.
Can't ask you any real question this morning.
All right. Well, Bickles does fresh fruit smoothies, so you know I'm sure you could have that.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's my cup of tea.
Okay, so when we left, we were talking about
transitions,
and so when is your next convention? When if you were going to pick a new leader, when would it be?
I think we have annual conventions. A date hasn't been set for a convention yet, so in due course that will play out.
And would you expect that one is where the leadership will?
No, I don't expect it at that stage.
Are you allowed to say you could expect these things, or is that?
Well, the fact that I said no,
that's off the script.
I said no, yeah. So
there's a kind of the reason we joke on these things is that there's a perception that the ULP is ruled with an iron fist, and there are very few examples of people
standing up to
going against the party line.
Yeah.
Well, we have had strong leadership. I don't want to deny that, and strong leadership is important.
What is strong leadership? How do you define that?
Well, strong leadership is leadership that makes sure that we set a plan and a policy and set rules for how we conduct ourselves as members of government and stick to those rules. And I think that has been useful. For instance, strong leadership is leadership which says that if you're late for meetings, there will be consequences of being late. Strong leadership is something which says that if you act in a way that is contrary to the policy of cabinet, then there will be sanctions for that. Or if you
does it include? Is it results orientated?
Yeah, it of course is results oriented. I mean,
but the examples you cited are more kind of bureaucratic.
No, well, the discipline associated with punctuality and the discipline associated with adherence to policy is not bureaucratic. Those are things which matter if we are going to attain results. And if you have tasks to perform, then perform those tasks. Conduct yourself in a manner that is not unbecoming of a person holding office.
So are there instances where somebody did mess up and internally there were consequences for it?
Well, yeah, there would always be cases where persons may not be early, and I'm just using simple cases.
Well, maybe let's say more serious things like
well,
that.
yeah, well, I'm saying from as simple as that to non-adherence to policy, maybe not doing something when it should be done. And this is not something like by way of reprimand, but this is just something to make sure that you are in line with the standards of performance that are expected of you.
So not like a fine.
No, not like a fine or anything like that. No.
Points. 8 points.
Demerit points.
You see the big man
when you say Luke running, he exceeded the points.
Like the punishment.
Big man pulls out the book.
No, the reason I ask that is that for at least the first half of the UOP's reign, it was all about poverty relief, helping poor people. And it turns out that the UOP's track record in that wasn't very good. Poverty went up by all accounts.
Well, I don't know if it went up by all accounts. I know there's been some controversy about the a recent poverty assessment, and I don't know. Well, and that poverty assessment, around which there was some controversy, was never published. There's no official information.
Well, it was scrapped.
Well,
I mean, let's be clear.
Well,
it wasn't redone. It wasn't.
Well, it should be
reassessed. It was scrapped.
There's an opportunity for it to be done now.
Right.
So in case you were of the view that maybe there was something.
I think the argument is that the data's there.
Well,
it's just that it wasn't favorable to your, if you take the country from, I think it was $600 or $700 million debt to $3.5 billion in debt, and your goal is poverty alleviation. I think some of us will say, maybe the trade-off was acceptable. Maybe.
Well, the goal ultimately...
But if poverty wasn't addressed, if poverty continued to increase...
But look, the information I have, which is based on official reports, compare 2008 with 2018, and those reports done by the same person on poverty alleviation show that there was a dramatic reduction in poverty. There was a dramatic reduction of indigence from, I think, about 26% of our population to 2.9%.
Isn't that hard to believe, though,
no.
if the report was never published?
Well, this report was published. The 2008 report was published. The 2018 report was published. The issue has to do with reports after that period.
No, it was the 2018 one, which the 2008 showed reduction.
Oh, wait, sorry, yeah,
right.
Okay. The 2008 in comparison to the previous period,
and then the 2018, by all accounts, showed that it had gone up and it had gone up
right. So
above the 1998 level.
Well, there wasn't a report in 2018. That is the report around which there was the issue, as you mentioned, but. What was the
issue then? What was the issue?
I don't know the issue. I wasn't in government. I don't know what happened in relation.
But isn't it kind of fundamental if the foundation of what you're arguing is that we're about poor people? We're about
I agree, and I'm
poverty alleviation.
I'm making the point that when there was the report, I think by Kyrie Consultants, the first report, which was like an initial report, showed poverty indigence at 26 or so percent. The next report showed it down to 3%, less than 3%. The first report showed the general level of poverty at, I think it was about 30%. The next report showed a dramatic reduction in that as well. I don't remember how much it was reduced to. The question that you are so in the period of the ULP government, there was a reduction in poverty at least up to 2008. The question that you might ask is what happened after that? And there's no conclusive facts on which we could base any conclusion of it. But so there was a reduction in poverty in this administration. Also, you mentioned...
can't say that. You can't say that.
Well, there was a reduction in poverty up to 2008. Yeah. I can say that.
Yeah, up to 2008.
Up to 2008. And the information in the post-2008 period is not available for us to make a pronouncement on it. I would like...
no, but you're still being a little bit messy because remember, you're responsible for the report. Right? Of the releasing of the report came from government. From the opposition, not from... So the fact that rather than complete the report and publish it, it was chosen to scrap it would suggest
it wasn't favorable.
Well, I'm not sure.
Wouldn't that be a fair conclusion?
But there was a ministerial statement by the Minister of Finance, Camilo Gonzalez,
who said that he would finish it, and then another year later he scrapped it.
Okay, so we need to get a report.
Correct.
And I'm in favor of getting a report. And if you thought that our hands were tied with respect to getting a report in the last administration, there's no encumbrance along those lines anymore.
Correct.
So by all means, let the new government commission a report on the state of poverty in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
But it seems as if it's a 10-year cycle from what I gather. the assessment is done every 10 years.
No problem, but we could do an assessment now.
But you don't think it's interesting that it wasn't published?
I think that they were the Minister of
Something to do with cross tabs. It was the explanation.
Right. So we have an explanation, and I'm not going to try to get behind the explanation, except to say that nothing prevents there from being another poverty report now on the basis of which we could act or make our decisions. Now, apart from that, you mentioned the question of the debt.
Right.
Because you say, you increase debt if you did this and it was associated with satisfying objectives, then it will be fine. And the truth is, one of the things which I think is a high achievement of the ULP administration has to do with economic growth in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is a high achievement, it's an unqualified achievement, and it is not an arbitrary achievement. It was the result of careful and deliberate execution of public policy over an extended period of time, why St. Vincent and the Grenadines was able to enter the highest echelons of economic growth in the Americas. I'm not talking about the Caribbean, I'm talking about the entire region of the Americas. When the ULP came into office, St. Vincent and the Grenadines had the second lowest economic growth on average in the Eastern Caribbean.
Mm-hmm. And we still have the second lowest salaries.
We have I don't know if we have the second lowest salaries.
Oh, that came out recently.
Yeah. What about
on an average?
Did they adjust for the cost of living?
Cost of living, I can tell you, like for instance, I have family members living other islands in the Caribbean. The actual food in the supermarkets is not significantly higher in other places by comparison to St. Vincent. I will say what seems to be a lot higher in other islands is the cost of rent.
It is
housing.
So the cost of housing is a lot higher.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the cost of food is not higher. Have you been to St. Kitts and Nevis?
Yes, and I'm talking specifically about St. Kitts and Nevis.
You're saying the food there
it's not significantly higher.
Crazy.
No, I have family members in St. Kitts who have said that the cost of the actual groceries is not significantly higher than in St. Vincent.
So I have family members there too, and I've been there myself, from visit different countries from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost of living from my I'd like people to study. The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank should study the cost of living in the Eastern Caribbean and provide us with the results. I would like, just like anybody else, I would like to talk on the basis of firm and concrete facts. Okay. So you study that and tell me what is the cost of, and I would also like a reputable entity like the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank to provide the information on salaries throughout the Eastern Caribbean.
But it's clear though that the salaries from the Eastern Caribbean are higher than St. Vincent's.
Well, I don't know if it is clear, but all I'm saying is that I would like the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, an entity of that authority, to. But this is not to. But I want to make the point I was making about growth, though. But I just say that tangentially. In terms of growth, what is clear is that St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been enjoying the second highest.
No, but that's only according to Google. That's only since 2024.
Well, we're talking about
So you're talking.
We're talking about the benefits of the policy. Coming home now.
You have to be fair on this, right? You're talking a 1-year snapshot of the second fastest growth, right? And we know what caused that.
I'm talking about the growth.
We know what caused that.
The growth trajectory in. From 2020,
but not over the last 20 years. Only over the last couple of years.
But the foundations were put in place over the last 20 years for what we're achieving now. And
no, it's sandals. The whole thing is sandals.
Yeah, but where would sandals be if there wasn't a public investment in the airport?
Yes, but I mean, look, sandals is a complicated issue, right?
So where would sandals be, Luke?
No, but
without an investment in the airport.
If I'm a 20-year-old in 2005. Right? For most of those last 20 years, it hasn't been great. It's been pretty poor.
Well,
right?
Over what I would say,
and I've sacrificed endlessly to get to this point. The question is, how much are the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines now benefiting from sandals? Now, it's complicated. I agree, right? But you're taking at best a 2-year window snapshot to say fastest growing, right? But all the preceding years, you weren't the fastest growing. You were one of the sluggish ones.
No. Well, I actually, over the past, for the part on average, over the life of the Unity Labour Party administration, we have been a high performer in terms of growth. I could even perhaps get that information for you if I check. I'll send back that information for you to tell you where we were in terms of rankings on economic growth for the entire period of the administration.
So our salaries in that period are the second lowest in the region, right? Our poverty, by all accounts, is amongst the highest, right? Our debt to GDP is the highest or amongst the highest.
Those are not accepted facts.
Right?
Those are just to say those are not accepted facts.
And
But
so it's clear to say this is the delusion that the ULP was operating under. If you're going to say those are not acceptable facts,
I said those are not accepted.
As in, what's the basis of it? What documentation are you using?
Yeah, I'm saying, what is the basis of these statements?
The documentation we're using. Well, there's some of it is there. All of it's there.
Those are not accepted facts.
But the main documentation is that the people weren't feeling better off.
Well,
Which is why in the end
I don't
they
know.
said too much promises and not enough delivery, and we have to vote you out.
No, I don't think
You don't accept that.
I don't think that is the case. I don't think that people, the Labour Party, the ULP lost power on the matters of the economy. The economy, I would say, is one of the strongest areas of ULP performance in the period of the administration.
Even though persistently low salaries,
I'm talking about I'm talking about economic growth.
relatively high unemployment.
I'm talking about growth in jobs, Luke. I'm talking about growth in wages. On all those criteria, we have been moving in the right direction.
The issue that you would find with that, right, is that little man doesn't feel it.
Well, you might say little man doesn't feel it,
right?
But is that actually true? You mentioned Sandals as a place. You mentioned Sandals as being a part of the reason for our growth. When I go to Sandals, I feel as if I am in a microcosm of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I see people from. I see people from. If we Luke, listen, let me finish my point.
Luke,
you know what I'm saying?
Can't go to Sandals.
I'm not talking about. I'm talking about in terms of the staff. The staff there, a microcosm in the sense of the staff. I see people from East Kingstown as a case in point. Many people, so many people who you would put in the
they're a big employer
in the category of little man. So when you say that people don't feel it, that's far from the truth, because I know from my own experience of seeing people there and knowing that people work at Sandals, that they feel it. You can't have an entity employing 1,000 people or almost 1,000 people. 500. I think it's closer to 900 at least. But you can't have an entity employing 1,000 people almost, and that effect with an effect that is not being felt by the quote unquote little man.
No, you're right. If I didn't have a job and I now have a job,
then it's different.
That is the fundamental thing.
It's an improvement, right? But if that job just allows me to cover my basics and nothing else, then it's is it enough? I guess is the question. But has it significantly changed the employment landscape of St. Vincent?
I think it has. And the employment reports from the Labour Department show that our employment levels is, I think, in single digits now. We operated unemployment levels in single digits now. We operated for a long time with a high level of structured unemployment, just because we weren't making that extra breakthrough as an economy. Unemployment hovered in the region of 20% thereabouts for a long time across administrations. But now that we've made this structured breakthrough, the unemployment has been on a downward trajectory, a big downward trajectory.
I guess maybe the point I was trying to make is I don't want to just survive.
Yeah, we don't want
I want to thrive.
but we want,
but
we don't want to just survive, but we want to survive.
We also want to, yes, we want to survive.
We have to survive first.
Yeah. Get that.
So if we see improvement, then we have a platform for further improvement. And what I suggest is that we have a platform for further improvement because of some of the difficult achievements associated with the ULP time in office.
But you see, the length of time that maybe a lot of people felt like they had to wait for that becomes the issue.
But development and change takes a lot of time. How could you build a $1 billion airport at the lowest possible cost, $1 billion in value, but not in terms of the amount that you spent on it? How could you build that at the lowest possible cost without taking you 10, 15 years?
Hang on, what did you say about $1 billion in
$1 billion in value, but not in terms of.
It's gone up 300 million in 7 years.
Well, wow. I'm saying the
50%.
If we paid,
that's massive growth.
That's not what I'm saying, Luke. Don't distort what I'm saying. Don't distort what I'm saying. You could buy a piece of land that is valued, that has the value of $10,000, but pay $3,000 for it.
Okay. So what do you say to this? Somebody has making a good point on the line.
Mm-hmm.
The low unemployment is a large part due to the brain drain and migration of people to foreign.
I don't agree with that. I think I made my point about the number of jobs which are now available in our economy. I mean, migration is a feature of our economy as well, but we have always had migration. We have been a migratory people, and that was the case, including in the time when unemployment was stuck at a structural level of around 20%.
I'm glad you brought up that point.
It's the migration part.
Glad you brought up that
we'll
point.
come back on that. We'll come back. The migration part is an interesting one, right? Because you rightly point out we are
migratory people.
Yeah, we are.
Some people move away for
before we come off the sandals and the airport. Do you agree that people like sandals, not just referring to sandals, but people like sandals should have duty-free, tax-free? They should get all those concessions basically forever. Is that fair?
No, I'm not. I don't think anything is forever. But what I think,
at least 20 years.
But what I think is that the package of concessions that you give to an investor, be it a local or a foreign investor, should be commensurate with the extent of public good that investor will be doing for the country.
It's not. A business opening isn't public good, is it?
Well, it's public good in the sense that if the government
is Hot 97 public good?
Well, let me explain. If the government has as one of its public priorities the creation of, say, 1,000 jobs, then if Luke Boy at Hot 97 is going to help the government by creating 100 jobs, then by all means, there should be incentives to get a private business to make that type of investment. So private businesses, in the best state, private businesses really serve public objectives by and large. And that is why there's always the scope for public-private partnerships in important areas.
Okay, but I could see it. You help somebody creating jobs to get them off the ground. So maybe duty-free on construction.
Yeah.
Maybe help them with some training. But you went way beyond that. You've given them tax-free forever. You've given them, and this to me is the real kicker, is the food and beverage duty-free forever. Right? So how could anybody else compete with that? How as a service provider, how am I ever going to be able to supply them, be able to serve? If I'm a farmer, how am I going to be able to compete? My tomatoes will always be more expensive than bringing them in from Florida, always. Well, because in the States they have the economies of scale, so that their stuff is always going to be significantly cheaper than what we could grow it.
Well, you see, it's not a one-dimensional thing, because in the first place, the government is able to provide incentives to all parties in the economy, including farmers and persons.
But what incentive could you give a farmer
in other areas
to allow him to sell tomatoes below $2 a pound?
Well, you could give incentives maybe associated with making a transition to a new type of crop in which he might have a competitive advantage. So it's not like one dimensional.
But why should Sandoz get? Why? I mean, explain the logic to me. Why should Sandoz be able to bring in stuff that could be grown here, duty free? The duty structure on things like vegetables, I believe, was originally designed to give local farmers a chance.
Well, look, I'm not privy to the details of the concessions provided to Sandoz.
But we know they get duty free.
But they get duty-free concessions in different areas. I'm not privy to the full details about that arrangement. But what I would say is that it's appropriate for an entity that is providing almost 1,000 jobs to have concessions, considering the fact that they help us to achieve public policy objectives.
500 jobs, not 1,000.
No, well, it's something that is very easy to verify. You could verify this at the snap of a finger at NIS, how many persons Sandoz has employed. So it's not a secret matter. And so that is important, but it's not one-sided, because other economic actors also have opportunities for incentives available to them, and those opportunities come in different shapes and forms.
But shouldn't we building the economy like from using people like Sandoz, like holistically across the board? So we help us with our water sports people, with our farmers, with our other local manufacturers.
Well, we need.
If you give them this blanket, I mean, like Sandoz are purportedly trying to sell their business for $7 billion, right? A lot of that value, in my view, is their ability to negotiate with governments these fantastic deals.
Well, and
why are we helping? Why are we so intent on helping somebody who is already fabulously wealthy?
What we intend on doing is helping Vincentians. Our objective is to help Vincentians get jobs. What is required to help Vincentians get jobs is what we will do as a matter of economic policy.
But don't they need us just as much as we need them?
Well, so therefore, that's why there are negotiations.
I guess what Luke is trying to say is it doesn't feel balanced.
Well, which Luke?
The older one. It doesn't feel balanced.
You can also say under the ULP administration, right? None of those.
By the way,
hold on.
Where's my partner too cool? Where's my partner too cool today?
Fluffy incentives that Sandoz got was ever given to any local.
Well,
that's not true.
They argue that if you employ
that's not true.
over 100 rooms or whatever, but
that's not true.
But that's not really my argument. My argument is you don't care about my profitability as a business. You have no interest.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by having no interest.
A regular business.
A regular business. You have no interest in that. If guardsmen are profitable or unprofitable, you don't care. That's not government's concern.
Why? Well, I don't think we could make it so simplistic, because
that's what it is. It's essentially right. You've Sandoz have come to you and say, look, we need these concessions to be competitive, whatever that means. Whatever that means, right? But guardsmen, Graves, Hot 97, Boom FM, whatever, right?
I like how you put Hot 97 in the same group as Graves.
Right?
No. That's an indication of profitability.
Businesses that are intermittent and been around a while. Government doesn't have this overarching concern about whether I'm profitable, whether I will be able to continue to employ 30 people each month, right? But when it comes to people like Sandoz, there's this kind of constant need for them to be competitive, for them to be able to make money, right? And it seems, as Jagger just said, the balance seems to be way off. I agree, right, that it is in everybody's interest for Sandoz to be profitable, because we need them to stay, so they employ blah blah blah, right? But likewise, I can make that same argument for almost any business.
Yeah, and the truth is,
but you don't do it.
I don't agree that we don't do it. We actually have different ways of supporting the economy in general, because it has, as useful as sandals is,
30% tax
as
coming down from 33% is hardly a way of showing your overarching concern for a business.
It's down, and there was a
It's
commitment.
down, but sandals is free.
No. Sandals, you may say, is free, but Sandals has to pay
what?
taxes on the rooms, on the nights.
VAT.
Well,
VAT. All of us pay VAT.
No,
Everybody pays
not.
VAT.
I'm not talking about VAT. I'm talking about the environmental fee.
What's that, like $1 US a night or something?
Well, I don't think it's quite as low as $1, but
Yeah,
the
it's
point,
low, it's
but,
low.
but the point is, it is contributing to the revenue of government. So the Sandals is providing revenue to the government. The idea that Sandals exist.
Do you have any idea how much they've contributed so far?
No, I don't. I could. It's something, but
I've never heard the government. Come
but
out.
I know that it's economically significant as a contribution, and I also know that there are different ways in which the impact of sand. I mean, I don't want to necessarily be bogged down in talking about a specific entity, but I know that Sandals in our economy is economically significant in many ways. I mean, and including ways that we might not assess. For instance, you have Sandals as being I believe Sandals is probably the leading consumer of electricity. In St. Vincent, no, maybe either the number one or the number two consumer of electricity.
But how does that help us?
They consume electricity from Vinlec. Vinlec makes money.
$9
Well,
How does that help us?
Vinlec makes money. Vinlec as a statutory
It
entity.
doesn't pass it on to us, sir.
Well, it doesn't pass it on to us.
Goes into government
you
coffers.
have it could be passed on to us if we attain a certain economy of scale. Maybe prices could have been higher if they did not have that type of customer giving them a certain level of revenue. So it's not just a very simple picture to look at. We have to consider many dimensions.
Do you believe if you didn't give them those concessions, they wouldn't have come?
I'm not in a position to say, but what I know is that if they consider negotiations to be in an unfavorable place, then they're going to make a decision not to come. They have made decisions not to go in other countries because of unfavorable circumstances. So it's not unheard of. You might say the question is, you have to find the right balance between attracting the investment because of the good that it will do to the country and making sure that you don't.
You don't think it should have been,
over
we'll give you the first 5 years.
Like I
And then
said,
after that,
I don't know the details of the arrangement with Sandals, but I think.
Do you think
that
the public should know?
I think that there should be a reasonable amount of disclosure in the public interest.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna step out, pay a little bills, and come right back, boys.
We take some public questions.
Yeah, we're gonna take the public questions and calls. All right, so we will be right back after